Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of AWS She Builds Tech Skills North America. Another Tuesday and another exciting episode lined up for all of you. I'm Bhavisha Davada, a senior solutions architect based out of New York, working for enterprise customers, specifically manufacturing customers, and I'm so excited to be part of this episode today. Also, I'm more excited because I'm co-hosting this episode alongside Yusra. Yusra, maybe I'll turn it over to you to tell us a little more about yourself and why you joined the She Builds core team.
Thanks, Vivisha. Hi, everyone. My name is Yusra. I'm a solutions architect here at AWS. I'm based out of Toronto, in Canada. I cover financial services customers, mainly banks, and this is my third year at AWS. Um, the She-Builds program is great. Thanks for asking that, Vivisha. I joined to share my experience with a lot of women builders throughout the industry, and to be able to help female executives present their point of view and present their story to many of our audience members. Yeah, so thank you all for joining. This is
Yes.
my second time co-hosting the She Builds North America episode. Last time, I was joined by three amazing women builders to learn about their journey helping a semiconductor customer in modernizing their data platform. So they told us about their story of how they helped the customer scale massively with sub-second latency. And it was really cool to learn about how they navigated these challenges and successfully helped them achieve their business outcomes. Definitely excited to learn more about Dapter's journey today.
That's awesome, Yusra. Yeah, thank you for sharing your motivation behind AWS She Builds. I think it's so inspiring to hear from other women leaders and stake technical stakeholders, right? How they've navigated their journey, what their journey into the cloud looks like, and the interesting problems they have been solving with AWS. So, same like you, I'm very excited to be part of this program. And we have Abhishek in the chat today who's joining from Toronto as well. So, hi, Abhishek. Thanks for tuning in.
Awesome.
Awesome. Great. So, for our audience, like Yusra said, we're going to be talking about Dapter today, but this is our part two in the Dapter series. So, if you've missed the previous episode from Lushen, who's the CEO of Dapter, where he actually provides some background on the business problem, the big data problem that they are trying to solve for their customers, he also talks about the challenges that typically come with handling big data, right? A very interesting episode. He talks about how they have been handling big data problem and how data is growing with from their customers, and he recommends ways on how Dapter typically handles it. So watch it if you've not already watched. We'll post the video link in the chat here. Pragya, please post the link in the chat for our audience to view the previous episode from Lushen.
So, besides me and Vivisha today, we're joined by another member of our team today, Pragya, who's going to help us moderate the chat. So, you've probably already heard from her in the comments. She'll introduce herself. Awesome.
Great. So you said you want to talk about maybe some of the great things that are happening at AWS recently, some of the summits, events that have been happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dive into our customer story today about Dapter's technical implementation, I'd like to quickly talk about what's happening. There's a lot that's happening with AWS these days. And June 14th, so just sometime last week, we had Reinforce, which is AWS's security conference. And there were talks about several security top of mind topics like the shared responsibility model and the concept of zero trust. There were also several major announcements that were covered in Reinforce, including Amazon's verified permissions. That was one of them. And what that is, it's a scalable permissions management and fine grained authorization pay per request service. There was also another major announcement, which is AWS verified access. And what that is that it basically requires users or devices to authenticate improve their identity before accessing any resources. So it's different from the classic VPN, as it doesn't automatically assume trust of users and devices based on network connectivity. And instead, it applies identity verification and fine grained access controls to enhance security and protect sensitive resources. Another major announcement I wanted to share today is Amazon EC2's Instant Connect endpoint. And until today, to access an EC2 instance through this SSH RDP, you needed network access to that instance. So either directly via public IP address or through a Bastion host that you're responsible for patching, maintaining, and securing. But with this announcement, with Amazon EC2's Instance Connect endpoint, you're able to access an EC2 instance even if it has no public internet connection. So this gives enormous benefits regarding cloud operations. And it also improves security given the integration with a strong authentication authorization with AWS IAM, Identity and Access Management, and the auditing capabilities of CloudTrail logs. Now, the last
Great.
thing I want to mention, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say amazing announcements, right? And security is so important. It's a top priority at
Absolutely.
AWS and both for our customers. So, Yusra, is there a way for our audience to look at these announcements now? Like, do you have a link that you can share with our audience to review these announcements from Reinforce?
Yeah, we'll share it throughout the live today.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Pragya. Now, the last thing I want to mention is coming up next is the NYC Summit. Bhavisha, you're based out of New York City. This is July 26th, where you'll find hundreds of sessions for different audience members, for IT executives, developers, business leaders, all sorts of different personas. And you'll find hundreds of sessions, including keynote speakers as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward, and I'm going to be part of the NYC Summit. So, anyone in our audience, if you're going to be at the summit, please come say hi. It's an exciting day, like you said, right? A lot of exciting talks, and also an opportunity to meet with our customers after all the meetings that we have. So, it's an opportunity to meet in person, understand what they have taken out from the summit, and then learn a little more from them. So, definitely looking forward to the NYC Summit as well. Awesome. That's great. I think great call outs there, Yusra. Thank you for sharing a quick summary of the amazing announcements at Reinforce and about the NYC Summit. Uh,
Yeah.
like I said, security is so important. It's always a top priority here at AWS. We recognize the importance of maintaining the security and privacy of our customer data, and we take it very seriously, right? We take extensive measures to protect both the infrastructure and the services that we provide to our customers, and not to forget the shared responsibility model, right, where AWS takes care of the cloud, but it's also customers' responsibility to make sure they are securely deploying their applications in the cloud. So we will also add a link to shared security model for our audience. I always remind my customers, I remind myself of this model again and again, so that when you're developing applications, you make sure you're following the well architected frameworks.
Mhm. For
Awesome.
sure.
Pragya has already posted those links. Thanks, Pragya. Appreciate it. Great.
Thanks. All right. So, coming to today's episode, we have part 2 of how Dapter modernized their data pipeline using AWS services. So, Bhavisha and the CSM interviewed Andrada and Tomi, and we'll dive deep into their architecture today. So, let's
Yeah, let's
hear, yeah.
yeah, let me play the video, Yusra, here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of AWS She Builds Tech Skills North America. I'm Elise Kennelly, a Senior Customer Solutions Manager at AWS, and my co-host here today is Bhavisha Dawada, a Senior Solutions Architect at AWS. In our guest panel, joining us today from Romania, We have Andrada, a big data engineer at Dapter, and Tomi, who's Dapter's tech lead. Tomi, Andrada, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us here today in this.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
So yeah, and we're just so thrilled to have you. Andrada, can you tell us about your journey in tech and maybe share some advice for anyone who's wanting to take technology and make it their career path?
Yeah, so my name is Andrada Luca. I have a bachelor degree in computer science, and last year I finished my master's degree in networking and distributed systems. I'm here at Dapter for almost 2 years. I'm a big data developer. I enjoy working with this awesome team. I choose tech because I'm an analytical person. I love solving problems, and my advice for everyone is just try it. Just do it. If you don't like it, you can do anything else because it's a very vast department. It's a vast domain which has ramification in almost anything in the time we are living.
Thank you, Andrada. Yeah, that's great advice. Tomi, what about you? What got you started in your career in tech?
Thank you, Alice. I began to work in the last 10 years in the field. For this team, I was working with them with the last 8 years. I began as a junior developer, so it was a big journey. Why did I become a developer? Because I wanted to learn as many things as possible, and this field is constantly changing. There are new technologies, new possibilities, and that's why it was an awesome journey till now, and I hope for the future too.
Yeah, no, I think that is awesome. And thank you for sharing your journeys with us. A lot of our audience is going to be inspired, Andrea, by what you said is technology applies to so many areas today. So try it. And if you don't like it, you can always pivot to something else. So thank you for sharing that information. So before we dive deep into this particular episode, just for context, right, for our audience here, in the last episode, Lucian, who's the CTO of Dapter, shared how Dapter is leveraging AWS to build an online data processing platform, and he talked about the business aspects of it. So if you've not watched that episode, we're going to leave a link here in the chat. So feel free to watch that episode before you continue here, or feel free to go through this and then go back to that episode. In this episode, the plan is Andrada and Tomi will dive deep into the technology aspect. They'll talk about the architecture. They'll walk us through their journey, their challenges, and what's next for them. So, without waiting, what I'm going to do here is pull the architecture, Andrada and Tomi, so that we can dive deep. Perfect. Here you go. So, Andrada, can you walk us through this architecture? Like, tell our audience what technologies you've leveraged and why you have leveraged those technologies.
Yes. If we take a look on our architecture, we can see that the process orchestration was based on step function together with RDS, EMR, and SNS for notification. And if we look from left to right, we can see that the input source files from our clients arrive in an S3 bucket. That S3 bucket is checked hourly, and if the number of input files exceeded the specified limit, then we initialize an EMR instance. That instance is responsible for the job that standardizes our data. The step for standardization implies that we validate the data first, and after that we make some transformation so we can have the data in the format that we want it. The next step after standardization will be matching it. We have different types of matching, and the result from the matching will be two sets of data, one set which will contain the unmatched data, and the match set will contain the data that we match successfully and to which we append a unique identifier. That unique identifier is used in the next step. It's used to append some additional data from our own identity graph, which is our own product. We append some additional data, and after that, the results, both the unmatched set and the matched set of data are stored in another S3 bucket. And once per day at the schedule hour, another step function is triggered, which creates an EMR cluster, which is responsible for transferring every output to our clients. And after the data has arrived successfully, every client will get a notification. We use RDS for logging. We have a mechanism in which we log every step of the process, every time it started, every time it's finished, and what happened in between them.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting. And what's most impressive to me is how you've leveraged fully managed services in AWS, right? So you do not have to worry about managing the servers, patching them. You're basically using AWS's capabilities to manage the infrastructure for you so that you can focus on your business logic. I think that's very impressive. And maybe that leads to my next question to Tomi. Tomi, how did you decide about leveraging managed services? Like, how did you reach this state of the architecture?
So the beginning of our journey, we had all our processes on premises, which means that bare metal servers, which are provided enough processing capability to do all of these projects. But we exceeded our possibility or limits because of the big volume of the data, which increased, we awaited that it would be maximum 10%, 10x of our constant data process, but it exceeded 100x of the volume. So it was the beginning, but but we arrived at a point that we needed to take a look if we would like to continue on premises or if we could possibly go to take a look at other possibilities like the cloud technologies. And we arrived to AWS, where we could take a look at the RDS and other EMR and other interesting technologies which helped us increment our data mindset to another level.
Yeah, no, I think very interesting, right? Because on-prem, you have to wait till you procure your servers get delivered. And because, like you said, your business was growing, your clients were growing, and your data was growing. So now you're leveraging the capabilities of the cloud where you can scale out and scale in based on your demand. And that's helping you achieve your business goals here. So thank you for, I think that's a great story. And a lot of my customers, a lot of our customers leverage cloud for this particular benefit. So this is great.
Yeah, this is fantastic, and it's so exciting to see the use of EMR, especially as a serverless capability. It's just really exciting, and I think a lot of our viewers are going to be able um, to take some inspiration from your architecture and your journey here. Um, Andrada, with the technology on AWS, there's always so many moving pieces. Things are always changing. There's more services coming out all the time. How do you keep yourself up to date with all of this technology and all of the changes over time?
Honestly, right now I'm just starting to get into AWS. It's a journey, and it's every day is tutorials, reading an article or two. You try to keep up with things. First, you need to learn it, to understand it, and after that, the first step is to implement it. Even if it is not something you implement in an efficient way or cost efficient way in different things, you need to start from somewhere.
Yeah, maybe I'll plug in a question for our audience here. How many AWS services do you think we have today? So leave your answers in the chat, and I'm interested to see your numbers. I mean, I think it's greater than 300, but I'll let you guess there. So thank you, Andrada, for sharing that. So before we wind up, I think we're almost at time here. So Tomi, this is interesting. It's impressive how you've reached this stage, but what's next from here?
From here on, we would like to work on the disaster recovery. Right now, we have deployed this process only on one AZ, which we would like to implement it at least two or three. Besides this, we would like to use other possible services which we are currently not using. We are right now using RDS for the logging of the process, But beside this, we would like to add an additional cloud watch logging analyzation process, which could increase our analytic capabilities.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you're leveraging it, but what is not mentioned on the diagram is the cost and the budgeting aspect, right? So you used Cost Explorer, you can leverage budget to make sure that your architecture or your implementation meets your desired budget limits as well and give you more visibility into the cost of the architecture. So with that, I think I would like to thank Anida and Tommy for sharing your insights both on your journey and the architecture, right? Like Alice said, our audience is going to learn a lot on this data processing pipeline. So thank you for sharing that with us. And Alice, thank you for being my co-host today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for having us in this awesome project.
Great.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Awesome.
Wow, that was an amazing episode, right? I think to me, it's a very interesting use case. And I think it's very relatable in the sense on we use e-commerce websites every day and we see how they provide recommendation. And that's the problem Dapter is trying to solve for their customers. So I like the relatability aspect of the story there. And also I'm very impressed, Yusra, with their journey to the cloud, right? So they talk about how they started on-prem, immediately faced the limitation of ever-growing needs of their customer. The data was growing at a speed which they could not handle, and that's where they decided to leverage the agility and the capabilities of the cloud. So yeah, what are your thoughts on it? What do you like?
Yeah, it was definitely very interesting, Rafisha, like you mentioned, to see kind of their journey throughout. I really, it really resonated with me when Andrada mentioned that just try to experiment, just try to start with the cloud, and that's how she sort of got started. And I really relate to that because I've worked with new customers to the cloud, and greenfield customers for some time, and we see a lot of them starting to experiment. The customers that do start with the experimentation and little POCs gain a tremendous amount of confidence in their ability to succeed on the cloud. Whether they start small and then kind of incrementally build on it, or even like just in our personal lives as well, when we experiment with something and it gives us the confidence that we are able to do it, right? So that was very, very interesting. And at the same time, like you mentioned, so Dapter was a growing company. They're scaling massively. And then as a growing company, they look to the cloud to help them succeed and grow and to accommodate for that growth and to support that growth. So they're able to scale out with cloud capabilities. And we see a lot of customers look to the cloud to help them scale and grow. So it's awesome to see that Dapter succeeded and they helped and they managed to get some help from cloud capabilities to do that.
Yeah, I like your thought of starting small and then building
Yeah.
from there. And we could see that in their architecture as well, right? They focused on the services that actually solve their business problem. And when we talked about what's next, they're talking about everything that's around those services, right? So they're talking
Yeah.
about using budgets, setting up the right guardrails, making sure their
Yes.
security is set in a way that they can be future proof. So I think that's something that we talk to our customers and something that we advocate here as customer advisors is start small, focus on the business problem, and then always start building around it. So great thoughts there. Thank you for sharing them.
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
go
And
ahead.
you mentioned guardrails. That's a very important one to have, especially as you're starting out on the cloud, setting those budgets and alerts. We definitely encourage customers to get started with those right away, to set those guardrails in place, have your budgets in place, so you're kind of not too nervous about experimenting and growing on the cloud.
Yeah, good points there. Thanks for sharing them, Yusra. So I hear this from customers. I think you've worked in greenfield. So do you want to share with our audience for somebody who's just getting started with cloud? I know we've touched upon this in our previous episodes as well, but would love to hear from you. What
Mhm.
are your suggestions for our audience who's just getting started with the cloud?
Yeah. So there are a few things we've mentioned already, like starting small, starting with a small POC, trying not to boil the ocean all at once. And I think that's kind of a great indicator to you're setting yourself up for success when you start small and then incrementally building on that. Setting the proper guardrails in place as well. So having control tower, for example, if you need control tower for your organization, if it fits within your use case, having that in place to set the security and detective and preventative guardrails in place, super important. Also, having a strategy in place for how you want to have visibility into what resources you have in the cloud. So things like CloudWatch and CloudTrail. What's your logging strategy? How do you, or your observability strategy to be able to visualize and see what's happening across your cloud environment? I think those are the three most important things to get started and successfully grow on the cloud.
Yeah, no, I think great points, and right, and when we talk about the knowledge, when we talk about the enablement, then maybe attending events or listening to sessions like this. I think we have sessions on Twitch mostly all of the time. So listening to those sessions, maybe also pursuing AWS certification, right? They are a great way to build the foundation. I myself have signed up for one more certification, hopefully sometime before end of July. But AWS certification is a great way to get yourself started and enable with the cloud skills.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, Yusra, maybe because you've helped greenfield customers, you've now moved on to enterprise customers.
Yes.
How do we share like customer success stories with the audience here? Is there a repository that you can point the audience to where they can look at more examples or more use cases?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we have a repository where we share customer case studies across the different domains. So you're able to look at other customer stories and see, learn more about their journeys and their different use cases. Yeah, we'll post um, so Pragya is going to share the link with us here, and you're able to see a lot of different customer stories on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? I typically, when I'm starting to try to solve a problem, that's my first place to go, so that I can see how other customers have solved problems. Maybe I can reuse or leverage some of the architectural designs or patterns that other customers have successfully leveraged. So thank you for bringing that up. I think with that, and keeping time in mind, we are at this exciting segment which is the question of the day, right? So the question for today is, Dapter talked about a big data solution that they leverage to process this vast amount of data. Which big data solution did Dapter leverage? So I'll post the question in the chat so that the audience has it. And
Abhishek is on a
there we go.
roll. Yeah.
That's awesome, Abhishek. Thank you for answering that. You are right. It's Elastic Map Reduce. So Dapter leveraged Elastic Map Reduce to as a big data solution to process vast amount of data. I think Abhishek knows the drill. Abhishek, contact us on the shebuilds at amazon.com email address, and we'll be happy to share the exciting prize delivered to you.
Yeah. Another person from Toronto. Love to see it.
Awesome. Good.
Awesome.
I also encourage the audience to check our Sheebles page for more upcoming episodes and connect to us on LinkedIn. Ayusra, myself, and Pragya will paste our LinkedIn profile IDs here so that you can connect with us. Would love to hear your journey to the cloud, or if you have any questions that we can help with.
Yes. And with that, it's a wrap. Thank you to my co host, Pavisha, and Pragya, to our moderator, for helping to organize and broadcast this episode. And to you guys, the audience joining us today. I hope you'll join us for our next episode on July 11th, the very same time. And we'll talk about how we overcome challenges in getting into the technology field and become successful solutions architects in AWS. We'll also share tips on how to jumpstart your career in the technical field and you can RSVP using the link in the chat that Pragya just posted.
Awesome. Yeah. With time, Yusra, thank you for co hosting this episode. And like you said, thank you for the audience for tuning in. Please do subscribe to our Sheebles YouTube channel so that you can get notified when we post future episodes. Sheebles North America will post an episode every other Tuesday where, like Yusra said, we highlight exciting women leaders and their career into tech. So please subscribe to our channel and we would love to have you back again. Till then, thank you everyone and take care. We'll see you in the next episode.